They left her to die. But she still reached out for me with tears in her eyes. The abandoned ship captain. Jenna Voss pressed her palm against the cold metal of the observation deck, watching the dying starship drift through the void. The UES Meridian had been responding to a distress beacon for 3 days, pushing their engines beyond safe limits to reach the coordinates. What they found wasn't what anyone expected. "It's a Zephyrian vessel," reported Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chen from the bridge. "Hull configuration matches their diplomatic class, but the energy signatures are all wrong. She's been dead in space for at least a week." Jenna frowned. The Zephyrians were notorious for their rigid social hierarchy and their treatment of what they called defectives, those born with genetic variations that their society deemed inferior. They'd recently signed a non-aggression pact with the Terran Federation, but trust was still fragile. "Any life signs?" she asked. "Negative on the main hull. But—" Marcus paused. "There's something in the cargo bay. Faint biosignature, but it's definitely alive." Jenna's stomach tightened. She'd heard rumors about Zephyrian disposal methods. "Prep a boarding party, full environmental suits and medical gear." The Meridian's shuttle bay opened to receive the away team. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Rachel Kim checked her equipment one final time while Security Chief Petty Officer, First Class Devon Torres, adjusted his sidearm. The abandoned Zephyrian ship loomed larger as they approached, its elegant curves now twisted and scarred from what looked like internal explosions. "Whoever's aboard that ship," Jenna said over the comm, "they've been alone for a long time." The docking procedure was smooth despite the dead ship's erratic tumbling. Once aboard, the team moved through corridors that still held traces of atmosphere, their helmet lights cutting through the darkness. The ship's aesthetic was typically Zephyrian, flowing lines and organic curves that seemed grown rather than built. "Biosignature is stronger," Dr. Kim reported. "Definitely Zephyrian physiology, but the readings are unusual." They found her in the cargo bay, exactly where organic waste was typically stored for disposal. She was small, even for a Zephyrian, with the characteristic iridescent skin and elongated limbs. But something was wrong with her back. Twisted, protrusions that might have been wings if they hadn't been so deformed. She was conscious, barely, her large eyes tracking their movements with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. When she saw them, tears began flowing freely down her cheeks, and she reached out with one trembling hand. "Oh, sweet stars," Dr. Kim whispered. "They left her here to die." Jenna knelt beside the figure, her training warring with her humanity. The Zephyrians had clearly considered this individual defective, probably because of the wing mutations. Rather than deal with her, they'd simply disposed of her. "Can you understand me?" Jenna asked gently. The being nodded weakly, her hand still outstretched. Jenna took it without hesitation, feeling the delicate bones beneath papery skin. "We're going to help you," she said. "I'm Captain Voss of the Terran Federation ship Meridian. What's your name?" The voice that came was like wind through crystal. "Nixara. I was Nixara." "You still are," Jenna said firmly. "Dr. Kim, get her stabilized. We're taking her aboard." "Captain," Torres interrupted, "the Zephyrian government might consider this—" "I don't care what they consider," Jenna cut him off. "We found a sentient being abandoned to die. That's all I need to know." As they carefully lifted Nixara onto the medical gurney, Jenna noticed something else. Scarring around her wrists and ankles, suggesting she'd been restrained. The cruelty was systematic, deliberate. "How long have you been here?" Jenna asked. 17 cycles, Nixara whispered. I thought no one would come." Jenna squeezed her hand. "Someone came. Humans always come. The healing." The medical bay of the Meridian had been transformed into something resembling a recovery ward. Dr. Kim worked tirelessly, consulting every xenobiology database in the ship's computer while monitoring Nixara's vital signs. The Zephyrians' condition was worse than initially apparent: severe malnutrition, multiple untreated injuries, and psychological trauma that ran deeper than any physical wound. "Her wing structure is actually quite remarkable," Dr. Kim explained to Captain Voss during their morning briefing. What the Zephyrians considered deformities are actually evolutionary adaptations. Her bone density is significantly lower than baseline Zephyrian physiology, and her respiratory system is enhanced for high-altitude flight. So she's not defective at all, Jenna said, anger coloring her voice. Not even close. If anything, she's more highly evolved than standard Zephyrians. Her people threw away a genetic treasure because it didn't fit their narrow definition of perfection. Jenna had been spending time with Nixara each day, learning bits of her story. The Zephyrian had been born to a minor noble family, her wing mutations appearing at adolescence. Rather than face the shame of having a defective child, her parents had sold her to a disposal crew. In my culture, Nixara had explained, her voice still barely above a whisper, those like me are called Kethmara, the unwanted. We are removed from society to preserve the purity of the bloodlines. The casual cruelty of it made Jenna's blood boil. But what struck her most was Nixara's resilience. Despite everything, she maintained a gentle dignity that spoke to incredible inner strength. Why did you reach out to us? Jenna had asked during one of their conversations. You didn't know who we were. Nixara's eyes had filled with those crystal tears again. Because for the first time in 17 cycles, someone looked at me and saw a person, not a mistake. The ship's crew had rallied around their unexpected passenger. Engineering Chief Thomas Reeves had modified one of the unused quarters to accommodate Nixara's wing structure, while Communications Officer Lynn Park had worked with her to improve her universal standard. Even the normally gruff Torres had been seen bringing her small gifts, books, music files, art supplies. She's been drawing, Dr. Kim told Jenna one afternoon. Want to see? The sketches were breathtaking, flowing images of flight and freedom, of cities that floated in clouds, of beings who soared through starlit skies. But the most striking was a portrait of the Meridian's crew, drawn with loving attention to detail. She sees us differently than we see ourselves, Dr. Kim observed. Look at how she's captured everyone's expressions. She's found something beautiful in each face. Jenna studied the drawing. In Nixara's eyes, Torres looked noble rather than stern. Dr. Kim appeared wise rather than tired, and she herself seemed confident rather than burdened by command. Captain, came Marcus's voice over the comm. We're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian Concordat. They're demanding we return their property. Jenna's jaw tightened. Tell them we don't traffic in people, Marcus, and schedule a senior staff meeting for 1400 hours. In the briefing room, the debate was heated. The Zephyrian government was threatening to revoke their treaty with the Federation if Nixara wasn't returned immediately. The diplomatic implications were staggering. We could start a war over this, Torres pointed out. We could prevent one, Jenna countered. The Federation stands for something, people. We don't negotiate with governments that treat their citizens as disposable. What does Nixara want? Dr. Kim asked quietly. That was the question, wasn't it? Jenna had been avoiding asking, afraid of the answer. But as she looked around the table at her crew, her family, she realized they'd already made their choice. I'll ask her, Jenna said. But whatever she decides, we support her, even if it means consequences. Marcus nodded slowly. The Meridian has always been more than just a ship, Captain. We're a home for those who need one. The choice. The conversation with Nixara took place in the modified quarters that had become her sanctuary. She'd been working on a new sketch, a view of Earth from space, rendered from descriptions the crew had shared with her. Her artistic skill was extraordinary, but it was her perspective that truly amazed Jenna. Where others might see a simple planet, Nixara saw home. The Zephyrian Concordat wants you back, Jenna said without preamble. She'd learned that directness worked best with Nixara, who had little patience for diplomatic niceties. Nixara's hand stilled on her drawing tablet. I see. They're claiming your stolen property, that your disposal was legal under their law. It was, Nixara said quietly. Under Zephyrian law, the Kethmara have no rights. We exist at the sufferance of our families until we can be properly disposed of. Jenna felt her anger flare again. You're not property. You're a person. To you, yes, to them. Nixara gestured at her wings, which she'd been exercising daily under Dr. Kim's supervision. The malformed appendages were actually quite beautiful when extended, like stained glass, windows catching light. To them, I am a reminder of imperfection. What do you want to do? Nixara set down her tablet and looked directly at Jenna. I want to fly. It was such a simple statement, but it carried the weight of dreams deferred and hope nearly lost. Jenna realized that in all their conversations, Nixara had never complained about her treatment, never expressed anger at her abandonment. She'd simply endured, holding on to the dream of flight. The Federation has asylum protocols, Jenna said. If you request it, we're obligated to protect you. Even if it means war? Especially then. The Federation was founded on the principle that all sentient beings have inherent worth. If we abandon that principle to avoid conflict, we cease to be who we are. Nixara smiled, the first genuine expression of joy Jenna had seen from her. You humans are remarkable. Your species wages war to protect the innocent even when they're not your own people. Not just humans, Jenna corrected. The Federation includes dozens of species. We've all agreed that some things are worth fighting for. That evening, Nixara formally requested asylum. The paperwork was transmitted to Federation Command along with a detailed report on her condition and the circumstances of her rescue. The response came within hours. Asylum granted. Protect the applicant at all costs. The Zephyrian response was swift and predictable. They dispatched a small fleet to intercept the Meridian, demanding the return of their property and threatening military action if their demands weren't met. 3 cruisers and a dreadnought, Marcus reported. They're not taking chances. Neither are we, Jenna replied. Signal the Yorktown and Intrepid. Tell them we need an escort to the nearest Federation starbase. The next few days were tense. The Zephyrian fleet shadowed them, staying just outside weapons range but making their presence known. Meanwhile, Nixara continued her recovery, growing stronger each day under Dr. Kim's care. I need to tell you something, Dr. Kim said to Jenna privately. About Nixara's physiology. What about it? She's not just adapted for flight. Her neurological structure is different too. Enhanced spatial reasoning, improved reflexes, superior visual processing. She'd make an incredible pilot. Jenna raised an eyebrow. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? I'm saying she has skills that could benefit the Federation, and giving her a purpose might help with her psychological recovery. The idea had merit. The Federation was always in need of skilled pilots, and Nixara's unique abilities would be invaluable, but it would also mean putting her in harm's way, something Jenna was reluctant to do. Let me think about it, she said. That night, Jenna found Nixara in the observation lounge watching the stars streak past. The Zephyrian had been spending more time in public areas, gradually overcoming her fear of crowds. Dr. Kim thinks you'd make a good pilot, Jenna said, settling beside her. Nixara's eyes lit up. Truly? Truly, but it would mean training, and eventually, active duty. It's not a decision to make lightly. I've been thinking about my future, Nixara said, about what I want to do with this second chance you've given me. And I want to help others like me. The Kethamara who are still trapped in Zephyrian space waiting to be disposed of. I want to show them that there's another way. Jenna smiled. I think the Federation could use someone like you. Part 4. The stand, the confrontation, came at the edge of the neutral zone, where Federation and Zephyrian space met in an uneasy truce. The Meridian had been joined by the heavy cruiser Yorktown and the destroyer Intrepid, but they were still outnumbered by the Zephyrian fleet. This is Admiral Cathval of the Zephyrian Concordat, came the transmission. You are harboring stolen property belonging to the Zephyrian state. Surrender the defective immediately or face the consequences. Jenna stood on the bridge, feeling the weight of command and the eyes of her crew upon her. Beside her, Nixara had insisted on being present, despite the danger. This is Captain Voss of the UES Meridian, she replied. We have a Federation citizen, Aboard this vessel who has been granted asylum under interstellar law, any attempt to take her by force will be considered an act of war. You would risk war for a genetic aberration? Kethaval's voice dripped with disdain. Jenna looked at Nixara, who stood straight and proud despite the insults. We risk war for a person, something your people seem to have forgotten how to recognize. The channel went silent for several minutes. Then, unexpectedly, another voice joined the conversation. Admiral Kethaval, this is Ambassador Zethara of the Diplomatic Corps. You are ordered to stand down immediately. Jenna blinked in surprise. The Zephyrian Diplomatic Corps was typically subordinate to the military, not the other way around. Ambassador, this is a military matter, Kethaval replied, clearly annoyed. No, Admiral, this is a diplomatic disaster. You have just threatened war with the Federation over a single individual. The Concordat will not support such reckless action. On the screen, Jenna could see the Zephyrian fleet beginning to disperse, but Kethaval's dreadnought held position. I will not be denied, the Admiral snarled. That abomination belongs to us. No, said a new voice, and Jenna gasped. It was Nixara, who had moved to the communications console. I belong to myself. You dare speak, defective? You should have died in the void where you were placed. Perhaps, Nixara replied calmly, but I didn't. I was found by people who saw value in me, who treated me with kindness and respect. I've learned what it means to be free, Admiral, and I choose to remain free. You have no choice, you are property. Property doesn't speak for itself, Nixara said. Property doesn't dream of flight or create art or form friendships. Property doesn't choose to help others. I am not property, Admiral. I am a person. Jenna felt a surge of pride. In the weeks since they'd found her, Nixara had transformed from a broken victim into a strong, confident individual. She was no longer the frightened being they'd rescued from the cargo bay. Admiral Kethaval, came Ambassador Zethara's voice again. You are hereby relieved of command. Return to Zephyrian space immediately or face court-martial. You cannot, Kethaval began. I can and I have. The Concordat has reviewed the situation and determined that pursuing this matter further would violate our treaty obligations. The human ship is free to go. The dreadnought's weapons powered down, and slowly it began to turn away. But Jenna could see the malice in its movement. This wasn't over. Thank you, Ambassador, Jenna said over the comm. Do not thank me yet, Captain. There are those in the Concordat who share Admiral Kethaval's views. This incident has created complications. After the Zephyrian fleet departed, Jenna called a meeting in the briefing room. The senior staff gathered around the table, still processing what had happened. Well, Torres said, that was exciting. It's not over, Jenna warned. We've made enemies today, powerful ones. Good, Dr. Kim said firmly. Some enemies are worth making. Nixara had been quiet since the confrontation, but now she spoke up. I want to begin pilot training immediately. Nixara, you don't have to, Jenna began. Yes, I do. There are others like me out there, waiting to die in cargo bays and disposal chutes. If I can help save even one of them, then everything we've done here will have meaning. Marcus leaned forward. The Federation Academy has an accelerated program for asylum seekers with military potential. I could arrange for you to be accepted. I don't want special treatment, Nixara said. I want to earn my place. You already have, Jenna said. You stood up to an admiral of the Zephyrian Navy and showed him what courage looks like. That's worth more than any test score. As the meeting broke up, Nixara lingered behind. Captain, I need to ask you something. What is it? Why did you risk everything for me? You could have left me on that ship. It would have been easier. Jenna smiled. Because that's what humans do. We don't leave people behind. Even aliens? Especially aliens. The universe is a big, dangerous place. We need to look out for each other. Nixara nodded, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I understand now why the Federation succeeds where others fail. You don't just fight for your own people. You fight for the idea that all people matter. Now you're getting it, Jenna said. Welcome to the Federation, Nixara. The new dawn. 6 months later, Nixara stood on the flight deck of the Federation Academy, her wings fully extended as she checked the pre-flight systems of her training fighter. The Academy had been forced to modify several aircraft to accommodate her unique physiology, but the results were remarkable. She could fly maneuvers that no conventional pilot could match. "Cadet Nixara, you're cleared for takeoff," came the voice of Flight Instructor Commander Sarah Mills. "Thank you, Control. Beginning pre-flight sequence." Through the cockpit, Nixara could see other cadets preparing their own fighters. They came from dozens of different species: humans, Vulcans, Andorians, even a few Zephyrians who had defected. After hearing her story, the Academy had become a beacon for those seeking freedom from oppressive regimes. As she lifted off, Nixara felt the familiar joy of flight. Her wings, which had once been seen as deformities, now allowed her to interface with the fighter's systems in ways that seemed almost telepathic. She was no longer just a pilot. She was one with her aircraft. "Excellent form, Cadet," came Commander Mills's voice. "You're cleared for the advanced maneuvers." Nixara smiled and rolled her fighter into a complex spiral that would have been impossible for a conventional pilot. In the months since leaving the Meridian, she had not only mastered flight but had begun developing new techniques that were being studied by the Academy's top instructors. After the training session, she returned to her quarters, where a message was waiting. It was from Captain Voss, now commanding the heavy cruiser Redemption. "Nixara," came Jenna's familiar voice. "I hope your training is going well. I wanted to update you on our latest mission. We've established contact with an underground network of Kethmara inside Zephyrian space. They're organizing, using your story as inspiration. We've been able to extract 17 individuals so far, and they're all requesting asylum." Nixara felt her heart swell with pride and purpose. Her rescue had sparked something larger, a movement that was spreading throughout Zephyrian space. "There's something else," Jenna continued. "The Federation Council has approved the formation of a new unit, the Humanitarian Rescue Corps. It's designed specifically for situations like yours, where we need to extract individuals from oppressive regimes. They want you to lead it once you graduate." The message ended, leaving Nixara to contemplate her future. She had come so far from the broken being they'd found in that cargo bay. Now she had a chance to ensure that others wouldn't suffer the same fate. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in." It was Cadet Thorne Blackwater, a human from the outer colonies who had become her closest friend at the Academy. "Hey Nix, how'd the flight go?" "Well enough. I'm cleared for solo combat training next week." "That's great. Listen, there's something I wanted to ask you." Thorne's expression became serious. "My sister's ship is missing near the Zephyrian border. The brass won't authorize a rescue mission because it might violate the treaty." Nixara studied her friend's face. "But you're thinking of going anyway." "I can't leave her out there. She's all the family I have left." Nixara stood and moved to the window, looking out at the stars. "You know what Captain Voss taught me? That sometimes the right thing to do isn't the easy thing, and sometimes the people who need help most are the ones everyone else has given up on. So you'll help?" "I'll do better than that. I'll get us official sanction." She turned back to Thorne. "The Humanitarian Rescue Corps may not exist yet, but its commanding officer does. And she's about to make her first executive decision." The next morning, Nixara stood before the Academy board, her wings folded respectfully as she made her request. "I'm asking for permission to conduct a humanitarian rescue mission in the neutral zone." "Cadet," said Admiral Harrison, the Academy's Commandant, "you haven't even graduated yet." "No, sir, but I have experience that none of your other cadets possess. I know what it's like to be abandoned, to be left to die. I know what it means when someone comes for you anyway." The board members exchanged glances. Finally, Admiral Harrison spoke. "Very well, Cadet. You have permission to conduct a limited rescue operation, but you'll take a full squadron, and you'll have Federation observers aboard." "Thank you, sir." As she left the boardroom, Nixara felt a familiar presence beside her. She turned to see Commander Mills, who had been observing the proceedings. "You know this is dangerous," Mills said. "Yes, ma'am. And you know it could end your career before it starts." "Yes, ma'am." Mills smiled. "Then you understand what it means to be a Federation officer. Go save your friend's sister, cadet, and show the universe what we stand for." The rescue mission launched 3 days later. Nixara led a squadron of 12 fighters into the neutral zone, her wings spread wide as she piloted her modified craft through the asteroid fields that marked the border. "Contact," reported her wingman. "Disabled civilian transport bearing 27 Mark IV. I see it. Life signs? Faint but present. Looks like one survivor." As they approached the damaged ship, Nixara felt a familiar echo of her own rescue. Someone was out there, alone and afraid, waiting for help that might never come. "This is Lieutenant Nixara of the Federation Humanitarian Rescue Corps," she broadcast. "If you can hear this, we're here to help." The response came weak but clear. "Thank you. I thought no one would come." Nixara smiled, remembering the moment Captain Voss had first knelt beside her in that cargo bay. "Someone always comes," she said. "That's what we do." As they brought the survivor aboard, Nixara realized that this was just the beginning. There would be others, Keth Mara abandoned by their own people, humans lost in the void, beings from species she'd never heard of, all waiting for someone to care enough to come for them. She thought of Captain Voss, of Dr. Kim, of the crew, of the Meridian who had risked everything for a stranger. They had taught her that the measure of a civilization wasn't in its technology or its power, but in how it treated the most vulnerable. Now it was her turn to pass that lesson on. The Federation would keep growing, one rescue at a time.